So that's what we was talking about in chapter 6. So when chapter 6 starts off, and it goes, now it came to pass. Let me expand this. Now you understand what he's talking about, right? Now, after he give us the genealogy of Noah and man, the population of man becoming billions of people on the earth. Kevin, how you know it's billions of people? Just do the natural count of how many people through procreation can come through a certain period of time. And you can come up with a number. It's just an estimate, folks. It came to pass. After all these people was on the earth, what happened? Men began multiplying on the face of the earth. And look at this, daughters, daughters, for the first time were being born. Why is that key? Why did he point that out? Men was multiplying, but daughters were born to them. To them, yeah. The them is the men. Look, here's something that can help you out if if you want to be able to do this. This is what helps me. When I'm reading stuff like this, you see how we just went back and look at this little phrase right here? You see how much time it took to do that? If I was studying on my own without doing this on live here, I would still be reading the first 5 chapters and taking notes until I completely understand what that is. I would probably go the rest of the day, 2, 3 hours, just on that little section right here. And then my next study, I would just pick up where I left off. And then I'll start here. And when I'll get to something on here, I'll stop again and write notes and then go on. And so I never move on if I don't completely understand what's in a verse. That's why you see the title uh, of my ministry is Treasure in Every Verse. Every single verse that's treasure about the Lord Jesus there. So why is this important? Because there's no females in heaven, no female angels. All the angels was made in a moment of time. God spoke them all into existence, and they are all males. There's no female angels. There's no baby angels. Okay, there's no babies in the spirit realm. So, for those of you who had children that passed away young, those of you who know of children that passed away young, when you get to heaven, you expect to see a little baby run around and forget it. There's no such thing. How do you know that? Because everything and everyone that God created was just like him, full grown adult. God created Adam and Eve. He proves it when he created Adam and Eve. Did he create them a baby? No, they were adults. So when you get to heaven, everybody's going to be an adult. Heaven, not the earth. I'm not talking about the new earth where they're going to have natural people just like us who's going to procreate again and start having babies. But in heaven, folks, no babies. None. In hell, there's no babies. Now, I'm saying babies are going to hell because they don't. The Bible makes it clear that they go to heaven, not because they're babies and innocent, because the price was paid and God imputed Christ's righteousness to the children. Nobody goes to heaven because of behavior or anything like that. Everybody has to go through Christ, the only door to heaven. Okay, so the daughters were born to them, that the sons of God, who in the world are these sons of God? They saw the daughters of men. Very specific. You can clearly see just by reading the context that this is two groups, different groups of people. These sons of God seeing the daughters of men, and they noticed something. Why did they notice them? Because there was no other females. There's no females in heaven. Remember, this is where you got, at this time, you have holy angels, and these angels are only holy because God never let them, didn't give them an opportunity to go sin against them. Remember, in God's hand, everything consists. When He opens up, only 1/3 of the angels left, and they all turned and went their own way. The rest of them, God held on to them to keep them from leaving and turning. Because if they would have got out of the hand of God, He kept them from leaving. He didn't allow them. They remained holy. Why? Because they were exactly how He created them. All right. Then there were demons. They had never seen females before. So how do I know that the sons of God is a reference to angels? That's the question. That's why I read this verse. They seen the daughters of men, that they were beautiful. Who's the they? The women that they took. Notice this right here. They, the angels, the fallen angels, and only the wicked angels did this. They took wives. They took wives for themselves, all whom they chose. Who did they choose? Almost every single person. The only people that remained that was not fallen in this group was Noah's wife and his son's wife. That's why only 8 people were saved, folks. What was happening here? Why did they do that? That's the question. What happened? You have to go back to Genesis 3 to find out what happened. Okay? It, it's not my intent to do this. Okay, but I'm just going to open the door, help you go start your study with this, and then I'm going to move on because that's not what I'm intending to do this morning. And I don't want to get sidetracked again. Let's go back right quick to find out why did they do that. This is the reason why the demons did what they did. All right. So you see the temptation here in Genesis 3, and then you see where God comes and God asks Adam and Eve, hey, what did you do? And he asked the woman, what did you do? She said, the serpent deceived me and I ate. So God throws, pronounces some curses, okay? Cursed is the serpent, all cattle, on your belly, blah, 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 right? All right, now watch this. I will put enmity between, here we go. This is the reason for the Genesis 6 thing and what the demons were doing. They were trying to defeat this. This is what God has promised to Eve. I, this is God speaking. This I is God. I will put enmity between you, yes, this is Satan, and the woman. The woman? Yes. Why? Because he deceived her. And between, how do I know that? Because Paul in First Corinthians gives us a long study in chapter 11 about this incident, and chapter 12 talks about it just a little. Listen, how did he do that? How did God put enmity between Satan and Eve? God explains it on his own. All right, so you don't have to guess. This is what I keep teaching you. You don't have to guess at this. The Bible is the best commentary on the Bible. If you slow down and read what it says. God now explains to you what he means when he says, I will put enmity between you and the woman. Look at what he says. It's between your seed and her seed. Got it? Now you're starting to understand what he's talking about. The enmity is not between Satan and Eve. Forget that. That's immaterial. The enmity is between the seed of Satan and the seed of Eve. The seed of Eve is Adam's helper, Christ. That's the seed. So when the devil then, this here's the cross and resurrection, right? When the devil gets people to kill the son, the seed, and God raised the seed. All right. What the devil is trying to do, he knows right off the bat that God is going to send a redeemer. He knows. So how do you stop that? How do you make the, what is he trying to do? He's trying to make God, the devil is attempting to make the promise of the seed a lie. If he can get the promised seed destroyed, stop it from happening, then he then can call God a liar. That's what's happening. Everything that you see going on around us is the devil attempting to make God, like him, a liar. God has promises and prophecies throughout the book. If he can stop that, if he can hinder that in any way, like Christ not becoming the king of the Jews, if he can stop Christ from coming back, then he wins. He makes God a lie. He makes the promises God gave to Israel of none effect. If he can stop believers from being born again, then he makes the book of none effect. If he can take a true believer, one that's been born again, and cause him to be unborn again, then he wins. Why? Because the Bible says that can't happen. Jesus says, all that come to me, I will lose none. If he lose one, he's a liar. Satan wins. This whole book is about the seeds, folks. It's not about this crazy stuff that you see happening around us. That's the side effects of all the war that's happening between the devil trying to overthrow God. He's not in a war with God, folks. He knows he can't win that. What he's trying to do is to equate himself with God so that God can't judge him guilty, and he then can continue to be the God of this world. All right. So that's what this is all about. Now, let's go back. Let's just go back and start looking at this again. So who are these sons of God? They're demons. How do I know that? Because this isn't sufficient to prove the fact that these are sons of God, that these are in fact angels. How do I know that these sons of God are angels? The Bible says when I'm talking doctrine, I need 2 to 3 witnesses. Okay, let's go do some investigation. Now, again, this is before the New Testament and what happens to the believer as a new creation. I explained that last time. If you want to understand what God means when he calls or who can be a son of God, go back to yesterday's lesson. I can't go back into that. I don't want to go backwards. So, what I show here, that the sons of God cohabited with women. What do you mean they cohabited with women? This is talking the sexual relationship, folks. They polluted the gene pool. There was only 8 people got saved in the flood. Why? God gave the reason. He literally told you why the flood came. You think flood came because people were sinners? Of course not. Everybody was born a sinner. Everybody was committing sin. What was so special about this time where God seen something to make him flood the whole world? He was saving the world. He was preserving the world. Why? Because the devil and the demons were polluting the gene pool. They were making stuff that was unnatural. And God protected it. How? By saving clean animals. You say, wait a minute, animals. Folks, you think bestiality wasn't happening? You think possession of animals wasn't happening? Go back to when the demons asked Jesus to do what? Cast them in pigs. Why would they do that? Take the whole counsel of God together. Look at everything as one book, not divided by chapters and book names. Take the whole thing. Read it carefully, and you clearly see it. It's there. Look at what he says after this happened. He didn't say it before. They were still doing all this debauchery, folks. It didn't make them worse sinners. You don't become a worse sinner just because people get possessed by demons. That don't make you a worse sinner. What that makes you? It makes you demon possessed. That's all. You're a sinner. And you would do all the things that you and I normally do as human beings, filthy, wretched, wicked human beings, that you do even if there were no demons. You mean tell me people would commit murder without a demon? Of course they do. I mean, everybody ain't demon possessed. All these people weren't demon possessed until after this happened. You don't need the demons, folks, to do everything that's going on. They just influence you to keep doing it. All right. So when God seen this going on, and he knew it was going to happen, he says, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh. Yet his days, here, now notice this. His days, God then put the world on a clock. You have mankind, what, 120 years. That's it. I'm going to allow Noah to preach the gospel for 120 years. How do I know that? Because the Bible and other places tell us that Noah was a preacher of righteousness. How long did he preach? 120 years. Why? Because God had determined that if I wait any longer, Noah and his sons and his wives, their wives, would be succumb to this mess. Mhm. So God put a limit on. There were giants on the earth in those days. Look, and afterwards. So before the flood and after the flood, this kind of thing happened. You say, well, I thought he drowned and killed all these abnormal type. No, folks. You can't drown a spirit. What was causing this? Demons. Demons. You can't drown a spirit. He drowned the people. But you find that several demons doing the exact same thing in the sons of Anak. Why? Because they're trying to kill David. Folks, listen, please don't get caught up in the earthly side of the book. Look at it holistically. God restricted all this stuff, right? So why was Goliath there? He was a descendant of Anak. This happened after the flood. Why was he there? He was going to try to kill Israel. When he couldn't kill Israel, the devil sent the demons, to kill David. Why? Because God anointed David. If he can kill David, then the line of the Messiah disappears. The seed of the woman disappears. That's why they were there, folks. Come on. Read the entire book. This is why I keep telling you it's so important that you do this. read the entire book, understand what's happening, then all this stuff becomes really, really plain to see. Okay? All right. I could go on about this demonic stuff with this giant, with David, and then what happened after that. But it's not important for what we're going here. But there's more to that story than what I'm telling you. I'm just giving you an outline. All right. So there were giants on the earth in those days, also afterwards. When did this happen? When did this take place? When, here's your time word, God now becomes very specific on what happened and when it happened. When did it happen? When the sons of God came in to the daughters of men. Children were born. You see, that's what happened. This is what caused the flood. God gave them 120 days, 120 years because of this mess right here. They bore children. God says that's not the kind of people that I'm going to save. And he didn't save any of them. You say, well, I wonder why there was no people saved when Noah preaching. That's why right there. You have to wonder. God says, I don't save those kind of people. I save normal people, not people who was a result of this mess that happened. So where are these demons today? These are the ones that's locked up in the bottomless pit. Bottomless pit, locked up. Yes, please go read Second Peter. Go read Jude. It tells you about what happened to these angels that did this stuff. God locked them up. They won't do it again. Those were mighty men of old, men of renown. They were earthly men of renown. Why? Sinners love sin. So to mankind, they were great people. They were great men. To God, they were wicked, demon possessed, abnormal, and he had to get rid of them. He let none of them live, folks. None of these people survived. He eventually got rid of all the giants. Why? Because he got rid of them because he didn't want the gene pool to be polluted after the cross. Different story. All right. Then, and only then, only after, now we have two time words here. Now it came to pass, sons of God seeing the daughters, then a time where he gave and says, this is how long I'm going to allow this to happen before I kill all these people. Now that there's children being born to this wicked sons of God and mixture with women, then and only then, this time word again, the Lord saw. It's the only time the wickedness of man, that it was great in the earth. So he decided, I'm going to wipe it out. I'm not going to allow the devil to foil my plan. Not only is that part of it, but God had another plan. He decided he was going to shorten the lifespan of man. And he did. That was the earth now is in its third iteration. We're on the third planet, Earth. Kevin, man, you getting way out there. No, listen, I don't say anything that's not in the book. Okay? So if you start with Genesis 1, the earth was void and formless and all this kind of stuff. That's planet 1. God then changed it. He made it alive. That's planet 2. Planet 3 is when God destroyed it. It didn't look the same. It didn't look the same to Adam and Eve when they got kicked out of the garden. There's some things that changed about the earth. The earth was being watered, or the life on top of the earth was being watered from underneath. There was no rain. before the flood. Okay. People were shocked when they seen water fall from the sky. The fountains of the deep was broken up. Here's your separation of the land masses, and here's all your continents. That's how all that stuff came. There were no big oceans at that time. When we get into the millennium, God is going to reverse all of that. All that stuff is going to go back to the way it was before the flood. There won't be any oceans. It says that. It tells you that in multiple places. All the big seas are going to disappear. It's going to go back to the five rivers, the four or five rivers that was there in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Go read that, and that's how the earth is going to go back to when Jesus comes back in the second coming. Okay.